Okay, thank you. Okay. All right, it is September 24th. It is 11:02 a.m. and I am going to call this special meeting to order and ask that we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Is there any amendments to the agenda? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve it.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? Okay, call for the question. Commissioner Coker.
Aye.
Commissioner Hollander.
Yes.
And I as well. Next is our public hearing, the consideration of an appeal AP-2502 of Planning Commission's decision upholding the Planning Director's approval of AD-2431. With that, I have an opening statement for this public hearing. Planning staff has determined that the approval criteria that apply to the application currently before the Planning Commissions are as follows.
Thank you. Article 3 of the Curry County Zoning Ordinance, Article 4 of the Curry County Zoning Ordinance, Article 7 of the Curry County Zoning Ordinance, and Ordinance 218-06, Curry County Flood Damage Prevention Ordinance.
Thank you. Evidence and testimony in this hearing must be directed towards these criteria or other criteria in the county zoning code, comprehensive plan, subdivision code, or other applicable land use and development related regulations that the person believes apply to the decision. Failure to raise an issue with sufficient clarity and detail to afford the decision maker and the parties an opportunity to respond accordingly to the issue precludes appeal to the Oregon Land Use Board of Appeals on that issue. Before the end of the hearing, any participant may request a continuance. In addition, whether or not a continuance is granted, a participant may request that the record of the proceedings remain open for at least 7 days after the hearing. The Board of Commissioners will hear whether or not they will continue the hearing or leave the record open for a specific length of time for new written testimony or evidence. When the county reopens the record to admit new evidence or testimony, any person may raise new issues that relate to the new evidence, testimony, or approval criteria that apply to the matter at issue. When called to speak, please come to the microphone and state your name and residence for the public. Please direct your comments to the applicable criteria as identified by the county staff. The following time limits are allowed for public testimony. The applicant will be given 5 minutes. I'm trying to see here how many of these we have, because we have to be finished by 1 o'clock. I am going to provide I'm going to provide 3 minutes for every member who would like to speak. I will, as you get close to your 3 minutes, I will give you a hand signal so that you have an understanding and I don't have to interrupt you that we're getting close to that 3 minutes. And then the applicant has 10 minutes to rebut. Following the close of the hearing, the commission deliberates and renders a decision. If you have questions or do not understand the procedure, please ask me, of the chair of the Board of Commissioners or county staff, to explain the process. Okay.
And before we get started, like last time, I have to recuse myself from any voting or discussion on this matter, as it is in a direct conflict of interest for me.
Lucky you. Okay. Have any of the commissioners visited the site in question?
Yes.
Okay. Have any of the commissioners spoken with the applicant or anyone about this application or proposal?
No.
I have not either. Okay. Can we have the staff report?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So, as you see in your record, the record that's been provided to the chair includes everything up to what was just handed to you, which are comments that were received from September 17th to the present, not including today, of course. So if there were comments, we did not get those into the record, but we will definitely do that. And so you have a staff report and a proposed final order. Staff has reviewed all of the public comments that were received. A number of the comments weren't directly related to criteria, so where they were directed to criteria, the staff report and the proposed final order do address those standards of those concerns. And essentially, most of the proposed final order that is in front of you today is similar to what was provided to you at the Planning Commission when you were acting as the Planning Commission board. There were not a lot of changes to staff's recommendation based upon those comments. So I'm open to any questions that you may have of me specifically, but I would just turn it over to you for the public hearing.
Okay. We will go ahead and open with the applicant, and you have 10 minutes.
Good morning, Chair, Commissioners. My name is Garrett West. I'm the attorney for the applicant. My address is 670 G Street, Suite B, Jacksonville. I filled out a comment card, so you'll have one up there. With me was Sherry McGrath from Parametrics. She's been the lead on most of this development. Sherry and I do a lot of development on the South Coast in Oregon. It's what we specialize in. Concerning this application, concerning the staff report, I've reviewed it. I agree with staff's findings on everything. This seems a pretty cut and dry application of the Curry County zoning ordinance to the proposal. If you have any questions, of course, we're happy to answer them, and I know Sherry would like to say some things on the record. But concerning, I think, most of the public's comments about this application is really what I want to focus in on. It seems like there's a lot of concern about the cultural and historical nature of this specific site as it relates to the community and to the Rogue River. I think that it's important that the commissioners very much listen to the public and take that testimony in and consider it, because that's really important to the community. But I think a lot of the focus, at least from what I've read in the comments, this is a much broader conversation than just this specific site. There's a lot of people, looking at these comments that seem to think that maybe local leadership might not be paying as much attention to these cultural and historical events as maybe they should. So whether that's true or not, I think it would be important and valuable for the community leadership to maybe hold a forum or a conversation at a later date to discuss these broader concerns, to make sure that the community unites in a good path forward to not only honor the past, but to make sure that those in the future are taken care of and that the local economy is supported. So I'm going to invite Sherry up here to give her comments. But thank you very much for your time, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Hello, Sherry McGrath, P.O. Box 1548, Bandon, Oregon. Office space is at 390 First Street, Bandon. So I wanted to add one item to the record. It has to do with 7.04013E, and it talks about the temporary use within the MA Shoreland Overlay Zone. A pre-application meeting was held on November 3rd, 2022 with Becky Crockett at the time. And the planning director stated that the planning department and planning commission would consider the RV spaces within the MA zone as temporary in nature. The explanation behind that is an RV park at this location would not preclude water-dependent uses from occurring down the road. So because the use would be considered temporary in nature and is definitely a low impact in regard to permanent development, some water-dependent uses involve permanent development would have a greater impact. The property has already been graded and gravelled, and the proposed use is utilizing past development. No new vegetation removal is necessary to develop the proposed use, and I'll address that in a moment. At such a time when there is a need or a demand for an especially suited water-dependent use on this site, the RV park can be discontinued. And so under the definition, if the proposed use is considered temporary, as defined, an expiration date for the use will be required. That's 7.04013E. The applicant then recommends that the required expiration date be tied to a certain point or have specific criteria that are clear and objective. An example of a condition of approval to consider is the RV park is conditionally approved as a temporary use within the MA zoning district. The use therefore expires at such a time when the ESWD need arises for the site. The ESWD demand and land inventory is reviewed every 8 to 10 years during the comprehensive plan periodic review period set forth by the state of Oregon. Termination of the use will be no later than 2 years of the ESWD need arising and is subject to termination only if an approved planning approval or building permit are obtained for that use. That would therefore satisfy the temporary use and prove that it can be within the MA zone. And as far as landscaping, I have consulted with ODFW. As you know, it's a condition of approval on our application that they consult with us on the landscaping plan. We're adding more than 13,000 square feet of new vegetation to the currently gravelled area. No vegetation is being removed whatsoever. So in addition to that the new landscaping, we're also going to be removing all of the invasive species per ODFW and all coyote bush, all the trees, those are all staying on site. And then further, they're asking us to continue the efforts to clean up the industrial site. So there's concrete chunks that are down on, in the riparian area. All the concrete will be removed, any other garbage or debris. There's some homeless camps down there. And then that will continue to be restored. So we're under the care of ODFW and the watershed to make sure that we're good stewards of the land. And just since McIntyre purchased this property, the riparian area is naturalizing, and it has come back in a great way. And so we have proven to be good stewards. We continue to do that in the future. And again, I just want to put that on the record that 7.04013E allows a temporary use in the MA zone with an expiration date and provided you with a potential condition of approval. Garrett, thank you.
The last thing I wanted to note is that if there's a continuance, we are of course happy to grant an extension of the timeline. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. You managed that in 6 minutes and 10 seconds. Well done. Okay. Next, I will be calling up the applicants, or the individuals who wish to speak, the citizens wishing to testify. I am going to ask that since you both filled out comment cards, you do not wish to speak during this time. Okay, I pulled both of your comment cards out just in case, but okay. Okay. First is Earl Hewitt. Yeah, sorry, I was going to not get that correct. Name, address, and then you have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is this on, right?
Yep.
My name is Earl Hewitt. I'm Modoc and Paiute. I live in Cave Junction, Oregon, 1381 White Schoolhouse Road. I'm a federal cultural resource technician, and I travel all the way up and down the coast from Washington to San Francisco. We go to a lot of cultural events and cultural sites, and a lot of along the coast is being lost and forgotten about. And I just ran into a guy that came from Washington. He said the same thing. There's no markers to recognize any tribal anything here, that we were here before or that we are still here. And so we like at least one spot. You know, I wore my sand colors today to represent one grain of sand that we are on all these beaches. We're just one little, and I want to stand up and be represented. I want to, for my people. I want a Modoc, and at the head of the Rogue River where it bubbled out of the ground in 1854, there used to be a sign that said, "This is an old Modoc encampment." Now the sign is gone. But from where this river bubbles out of the ground to where it flows into the ocean is my home, is my backyard. And so I want to come here. I come here to represent, to say, you know, this, it needs to be saved. It really does. We just got back and we went and sang down there on the river and recorded us. And the animals came and they flew around. The ospreys came, the pelicans came, the sea otters came. And my young son that was with us, he couldn't believe as we sang, the animals came to see and to be there. And we went to the old shell mound that's there, you know, 10,000-year-old, 12,000-year-old mounds that represent those people, that even our people, the old ones, they didn't want to be buried up on the mountain. They want to be buried in those shell mounds, stay close to the village, to be right there. Still today, if you go down there, you'll find human remains along those beaches, in those shell mounds, in those piles that are still there. That today, people are walking across, they're not being marked, they're being forgot about. And so as we go along, we try to remember, we try to sing at those spots and honor those spots. And this is one spot that we really, this is, if you look at we have a map from 1854, there was 5 tribal houses there. There was 3 on this site that we are talking about right now. And at the big rock, it says the only big rock at the mouth of the Rogue River was an old tribal fishing rock. And that we would go there every year. We'd fish off from that rock. Now the Coast Guard has a station right there on the rock. And we're not allowed to fish there anymore. But we'd like to get that village site back. We'd like to, so we can share, sing, and pray with all the people. We could have a, information center. We could have a cultural center. We could have a cultural hub for all these things. We could launch our canoes and we could do our hikes. We could welcome all the people to this beautiful coastal area and remember who we are. And thank you for letting me speak and come up and, we see. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, Earl. Next is Mandy Watson. Name, address, and then you can start.
Good morning, Commissioners and Chair. My name is Mandy Watson. I live up the coast in Seal Rock, but I am the Coastal Conservation Manager of Oregon Shores, and we have constituents here in Gold Beach as well as all over the South Coast. I'm here today to urge you to reverse the Planning Commission's approval of the RV park at Wedderburn Loop and deny this application. This project violates land use as outlined by our legal counsel at Craig Law Center. An RV park is not water dependent as required by the zoning code. In fact, the code explicitly states trailer parks are not considered water dependent or water related uses. It also fails to meet basic environmental protections in the shoreland and overlay and riparian buffer zones. But just as troubling is the public process that got us here today. The Northwest American Indian Coalition, a native-led nonprofit, was denied standing and excluded from having a hearing. Transparent and inclusive governance is the bare minimum, which was not met here. The process that led us to today's hearing was a failure of equitable public process. That being said, I am thankful for having the time to be here today and speak with you. However, especially when it comes to historically marginalized groups such as Native peoples, you need to listen up the first time. The Northwest American Indian Coalition should not have had to fight to be included in this decision-making process regarding culturally significant land such as this one. Not only because of the long history of exclusion that they have endured, and not only because it is their moral and legal right to participate in decision-making processes, but because they have gifts and knowledge to share. Denying the RV park application would open up the door to something that would be a gift to the Gold Beach and South Coast community. The Tatuni Estuary Ecocultural Restoration Center would restore the land, protect the estuary, honor Native stewardship, and welcome tourists here year-round and serve the entire Gold Beach community. I urge you to reverse the Planning Commission's decision and deny the RV park permit because, one, the RV park is not a lawful use under the zoning code. It is neither water dependent nor consistent with shoreline protections. 2, the public process was extremely flawed and exclusionary. 3, there's a better alternative that offers a long-term ecological, cultural, and community benefits. And I also agree with the applicant that there needs to be a broader meeting to address the lack of culturally significant sites here in Curry County. So perhaps a comprehension plan update process. Again, I appreciate your time here today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next is Jaden Ruff.
Hello, good morning. My name is Jaden Ruff. I reside in 1776 Meade Street in Coos Bay, Oregon, and I'm the Executive Director of the South Coast Health Equity Coalition, serving both Coos and Curry County, and also some of Crescent City as well. On behalf of the South Coast Health Equity Coalition, we are here to express our deeply solidarity with community organizations, tribal partners, and residents of Curry County who are raising serious concerns about the current state of land use and planning in the county. As a coalition rooted in advancing equity, health, and community well-being across the South Coast, we are troubled by the absence of an independent planning commission, the financial and procedural barriers placed on community groups, and the exclusion of local voices in decision-making. These practices undermine trust in government, create inequities, and prevent transparent and community-centered solutions. We are especially concerned about the impacts on indigenous sovereignty and cultural heritage, where the Northwest American Indian Coalition's work to protect and restore the Tututni Estuary Ecocultural Site has been repeatedly sidelined. Food security and small business sustainability, where Brookings Farmers Market, an essential space for local growers, families, and seniors, faces unnecessary hurdles that threaten its survival. Public health and resilience, as planning decisions continue to shape how our communities prepare for housing needs, climate change, and wildfire risk, all of which directly affect the safety and well-being of the South Coast residents. South Coast Health Equity Coalition believes that trauma-informed, community-centered processes are essential to building healthier futures. We strongly support calls for reinstating an independent planning commission that includes diverse representation and technical expertise, clearer guidelines for public participation and meaningful opportunities for local voices to shape decisions, transparency and accountability in fees, processes, decision-making, and ensure fairness and compliance with state law, stronger protections against retaliation for community members who speak out. Our communities deserve planning processes that honor cultural heritage, protect ecological systems, strengthen local economies, and prioritize community well-being over private profit. The South Coast Health Equity Coalition stands with the Northwest American Indian Coalition, the Brookings Farmers Market, and the many residents advocating for a more transparent and actionable path forward in Curry County. We urge the Board of Commissioners to take these concerns seriously and to work in partnership with local organizations, residents, and tribal leaders to restore trust, fairness, and equity in Curry County's land use decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaden.
Thank you. Next is Carol. Help me out, Carol. Carol Bulian? You, come up here, please. Yep, and state your name and address, and then you can. We won't be engaging in a back and forth town hall style dialogue. We will field your question, but we most likely will not be interjecting to answer.
Okay.
But go ahead.
Okay, my name is Carol Bullion, and I live on Doyle Point Road, which is right across the street from the property we're talking about. And my question is just, what are they going to do with that building? Because it's not only ugly, but it's a health hazard. And I have noticed signs that maybe homeless people sort of hang out there in the wintertime. So that was just my concern.
Okay. Thank you, Carol. Okay, next is Katrina Thompson Upton.
Chila, Dillaha, Agiyasham, Sushi, Katrina Thompson. I'm a Curry County resident. Do I need to say my street address or business address, or does it matter?
Town you're from.
Brookings,
There you go.
Chithu. I'm also the founder of Northwest American Indian Coalition, and like many other tribal citizens here and online, I'm a descendant of the homelands that we're talking about today, including my great-great-grandmother, Sarah, and her mother, Shemet. Shemet carries the name of this village, Shemetuni, Shemetdun, that we're discussing today. Many of us carry this lineage forward, so we're not just speaking of abstract history, but of our living family ties to this land and to this exact place. Myself and local residents are concerned about the proposed RV park at the mouth of Yashu Chitagili, or what is known as Rogue River. After reviewing the staff report, we do submit our statement today, both as formal objection and as basis for the appeal. First, I wanted to respectfully request that the hearing is continued, or that the opportunity to submit written comments be extended by a week pursuant to ORS 1977976A. That would allow us and the community members to adequate time to respond or raise new issues or evidence. Second, I wanted to also address the issue of the appeal fees. ORS 21541611B limits fee for an appeal statutory permit to $250. To date, NAIC and Dr. Diane Hennessy Powell have paid $1,000 in fees in order to preserve our statutory right to a hearing. So we can test that $500, and not only for this hearing, but the $500 that we paid for the initial hearing and were denied standing and did not have a hearing. And so we just wanted to bring that forward, not only for ourselves, but for other community members that may engage in the appeal process. And then third, we just wanted to mention or bring up the Oregon Cultural Resource Protections. The site is in the ancestral homelands of the Tututni people and other people. There are adjacent known villages, gatherings, canoe places, et cetera, at the mouth of the Rogue River in this area. And so there is a very high likelihood of inadvertent discoveries, and yet the report and the records show no archaeological investigation, no cultural resource review, no environmental assessment or anything of those natures, and no coordination with SHPO or local tribes. So we are formally requesting that an archaeological investigation and consultation with tribal representatives be required before further consideration. And I guess I'm out of time.
Thank you. Thank you, Katrina. Next is Karen Elliott.
Hi, so I don't exactly know how this works, so please bear with me. So my name's Karen Elliott. I live on Wedderburn Loop. So I'm 5 houses down from where this was, and I didn't get notice, and that was sort of surprising to me. I was kind of shocked, frankly, because the property itself is a good almost 3/4 of a mile long. I'm 5 houses down and wasn't included in the information that this was even going on. I have all kinds of concerns, but to be short on time, one of the primary ones has to do with, one, there's a lot of RV parks already in the area, to start off with. And these days, one of the things that is pretty common in the area is RVs are pulling out at personal people's property or in the, up along the highway or on county property at the turnouts, and they're moving in and they're staying and they're not leaving. And this particular property, you come down from the highway, you drive down Wedderburn, you're going to make a turn into the property, but if you don't turn in right there, the next turnoff is at the end of the North Jetty, where people tend to boondock, they tend to stay, and there'll be a bunch of people there hanging out, and it's like, why not stay there for free when you don't have to, rather than pay, $1,000 or $600 or $800 per month to be sardined in. The next turnoff is the Knox's land, as far as that goes. And then there's more county property, and all of those, if somebody misses the turnoff, they have to go back on the highway to turn around and get back on. There's 3 turnoffs along the highway to get back. All of those places right now, literally on the way here, they have RVs where people have been there long-term. County members go in to clean up the garbage, to clean up that. And as somebody who lives there, it's also concerning because it's crimes up, gas is stolen out of my car, things are stolen out of people's things. It's scary as far as that goes. The other thing, as far as the property goes, there's just concerns of earthquake hits, tsunami warning. What happens to the 55 transient people that are there? You know, it says it's also a marine property. It's like the people aren't going to be towing in boats on their RVs. Like, you know, it says it's boat storage, but, you know, in some sense, like, come on already. And then there's the winter winds. It's like 3 sides of that building right now are blown out in big proportion. How well is an RV going to sustain right there? It's just, you know, concerns as far as what they consider. That property also has standing water every winter. So obviously that's going to need to drain somewhere. One of my other personal concerns is where I am, I'm sort of 5 houses down around the corner. My water pressure can vary just with my neighbors as it is. And so this is a sense of, they say they're not going to need water, but obviously they're going to need water for sewer, flush toilets, do other things. How's that going to affect the water pressure down the line? Is there any guarantee on what that's going to be or how that is or when it's put in? All kinds of thoughts and considerations. I want the best for all, and, you know, when earthquake hits or something else happens, like how are people right there on the river going to do? And I would say one more piece is that as far as the RVs and going on the property, I think the Knoxes have been very kind. They've had to remove, I want to say, over 10 RVs at their expense from their property of people coming and leaving things there in cars. And they've been very kind to the community to let people stay. But if we lose that as a community, we're going to lose this parcel of river access, and we could lose that access. And to the community, that could be really detrimental to not have riverfront access. Just my thoughts. And 4th of July, too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
And finally, Jerry Lynn Thompson.
Mr. Chair, I do believe that there are some on Zoom as well.
Oh, okay. We have some Zoom.
I believe Natasha may have the list.
Okay, we have some. Yeah. You will not be the finally. There will be some after you on Zoom.
Lynn Thompson, resident Upper Chetco, Brookings, Oregon. I am an enrolled citizen of the Tolowadeni Nation. And on this particular property, I think I've mentioned it to all of you umpteen times, that that's where my great-great-grandma was from, was that village named Shemetuni, and her name was Shamet. And we have a lot of relatives. There's people online that their families come from there. Depot Charlie's from there. Joshua Louis from there. There's the Hustlers are all from there. So, I mean, and we were scattered all over at gunpoint. So we're everywhere. And one of the things that I think we really need to look at how the county appraises these sites, and I realize there's not a tribe in Curry County, Oregon, so you just can't call up the phone and, you know, but there's people here. I'm here. You know, I can get you to the right people that you can ask those questions to, so you can always be informed of what's going on there. So what I wanted to kind of say about Curry County here, and I'm not trying to blame anybody or anything, but Curry County is, well, a lot of people believe that the only good Indian is a dead Indian. And, you know, my answer to that is, for here in Curry County, is looking at this picture up here, y'all got this timber because of our stewardship of those lands. Those lands were in pristine condition when we were removed by bullets, you know, massacres. And so many of the buildings here are built on those timbers that come from those lands that we stewarded. And I don't think people realize the gift that our ancestors gave Curry County here. Not only the timber, the clean water, the abundance of water, food. I think we need to honor the ancestors here that gave all this county to all of us to enjoy and to protect and preserve. And we are going to fight for our ancestors, and I don't think any of you want to build your house on a grave. So get a hold of us so that that doesn't happen, so that we can protect that land from you. So like I say, I don't want to blame, and I want to really appreciate you guys hearing me and listening to me, all of you. And the gift and recognize the gift that our ancestors left us. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry Lynn.
Thank you, Jerry. Okay, I guess we will we will be going to Zoom here. As bear with us, this is the first for me of taking public testimony on Zoom.
Do you want us to just speak up, Jay? I think I did send a list, but
Tabitha, is that you speaking?
it is.
Okay,
Can you guys hear me okay?
we can.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're through. Go ahead.
Really appreciate the accommodation here to speak on behalf of the appellants to this conditional use permit and as just a general member of the Gold Beach community, and appreciate everyone in the room. The core of this appeal is not to simply fight development of this riverfront property, but rather to remind Curry County of its primary responsibilities in development to local residents and resources. The approval of this conditional use permit is a violation of the basic purposes of the Curry County zoning ordinance, which clearly state in section 1.020 that the Curry County zoning ordinance is in place to protect the quality of the air and water resources of the county, protect life and property in areas subject to flood and other natural disasters, conserve open spaces and protect historic, cultural, natural, and scenic resources, and to protect, maintain, and where appropriate, develop or restore the estuaries, coastal shorelands, coastal beach, and dune areas off the continental shelf of the county. So in order to approve the request, the Board of Commissioners' findings and staff report must show consistency with all applicable criteria. In reviewing the criteria and relevant findings within the staff report, this application is woefully incomplete and not well formed based on the requirements. Of the 40 provisions considered in this administrative ruling, only 8 of them were completely met. 6 of the provisions were determined not applicable based on arguments made by the applicant, several without basis, and more than half of those provisions are being met only with conditions. Several of the conditions are extensive and would not suggest that they would be met considering the capacity of county staff to revisit these conditions to ensure their completion. Therefore, it's reasonable to assume that these conditions for responsible development would not be upheld. As required by section 2.1, conditions must be reasonably conceived to fulfill public needs proportionate with the impacts from the proposed land use. As has been listed by several other public comments, there are a lot of potential negative impacts to residents and potential human health and safety issues. A couple of issues are particularly concerning, especially that the RV park would be considered temporary in nature. This is somewhat laughable considering updates to our comprehensive plan are not occurring on a regular 8 to 10 year basis, and this is really a foot in the door for a more permanent use. I'm happy there's been naturalization of the bank and there are plans to revegetate. However, this is additional ground disturbance and there is no condition currently in the permit to include an archaeologist in this development whatsoever, despite known historic sites. The lack of applicability of riparian buffer zone and estuary requirements in which the development of drainage facilities, utilities, and irrigation pumps are listed explicitly as prohibited uses, and that expansion must not occur within 75 feet of the bank, according to CCZO 3.283. This is an unjustified dismissal of the applicability of these rules. There's also no provision of water supply, as was mentioned by other public comments, despite the requirement of anything over 25 spaces having a water supply system. We know Wedderburn Sanitary District has some fundamental issues with processing and delivering water already on Wedderburn Loop, and so it is also unreasonable to assume that that system would be fixed in order to accommodate the conditions of this permit.
Tabitha, I'm going to have to ask you to wrap it up.
Okay, I will just mention 2 more things that were already mentioned. The commercial and marine zoning designations are inconsistent with the proposal, and county Goal 5 explicitly is violated, and statewide goals 7 and 16. Thank you. I do realize that the Intertribal Cultural Center is not part of this discussion, but we are really not we're trying to work with the landowners to come up with a better alternative for everyone here. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Tabitha.
Thank you, Tabitha. Next, We'll go with Jerome Viles.
Can you hear me?
Certainly can. Can you hear us?
Yeah, thank you. Well, Jala Tahuti, Shudo Jerome Viles, Chanchifan Damsasta, Soletsi Nashli, Shishu, Ada Depo, Hu Oshe, Chemet Tane Nashli. So, hey everyone, my name is Jerome Viles. I live in Eugene. I'm a citizen of the Confederated Tribes of Siletz Indians, and I'm a descendant of Ada Depo, who was forcibly removed to the Siletz Reservation from our village named Chemet on the north side of the mouth of the Rogue River in 1856 after her father, the chief of our people, signed the Coast Treaty, which was subsequently ignored by the U.S. Congress, never ratified, repeatedly broken. This proposed RV park is directly on top of my ancestral village of Chemet, and I'm seriously concerned about the lack of attention and care for this archaeological and historical site. There are relevant state laws that I'm concerned are going to be violated as part of this development. It's in Curry County. There's a lot of development that's happened on village sites, on graves, and common practice seems to have been, from what I've heard, people move forward without contacting SHPO, without contacting the state. And I'm really concerned about this here. The state of Oregon recommends, when developing an archaeological site, that SHPO and relevant tribes are consulted. And there's a whole host of laws, including ORS 358.905, 390.325, Oregon Administrative Rules 736, 051, 0080 to 0090, in addition to national laws such as NAGPRA. I'm just concerned this project on a very, very significant cultural village site is not having the proper tribal consultation and is not engaged with SHPO to ensure that the archaeological site is not disturbed and further desecrated. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerome.
Thank you.
Next will be Kelsey Dunn.
Good morning, commissioners. Thank you again for being here today. My name is Kelsey Dunn. I'm an attorney at Cragg Law Center, located in Portland, Oregon, and I'm here representing Appellants Northwest American Indian Council, Oregon Shores Conservation Coalition, and Dr. Diane Hennessy Powell. Cragg Law Center has submitted detailed comments on behalf of appellants illustrating why the board must deny this application. And I'm here to highlight a couple of key points from those comments and show why this proposal cannot be permitted under state and local land use law. And I also wanted to again uplift and acknowledge the cultural significance of this site and this conversation and express appreciation for the county's consideration of this appeal. From a land use perspective, the most critical issue here and the reason the permit must be denied is that an RV park is not allowed at the site, even conditionally, because it is not a water-related or water-dependent use. And I know this is something that's already come up a couple of times today. But water-related and water-dependent have very particular meanings under state law and under the Curry County zoning ordinance that require a showing that a proposed use cannot exist without access to water. And the findings in the proceedings below and in the application's narrative about this proposed use fail to make adequate findings supported by the record and the law on that issue. Instead, the findings rely on a characterization of the use as water dependent because it would benefit from or contribute to water-related tourism, but that is not enough to meet the highly specific definition of water dependence that's required, again, under both the state and county laws. And the RV park clearly does not meet that definition, which means that it can't be approved under various sections of the code, including the marine activity zone and the shoreland overlay zone, even with the conditions that are detailed in section 740 of the code. And finally, we ask that the county take a closer look again at what activities are proposed within riparian buffer corridor and make the required findings for those activities, rather than accept the applicant's reasoning that the buffer corridor doesn't apply because there's already been grading and development on this site. We urge the county to look at that provision again and notice that it doesn't create an exception just because there's been previous development. And finally, we wanted to emphasize again that we've requested a continuance of a week to provide additional comments and have asked for a fee refund, as several people have already mentioned today. So happy to answer any questions, but those are our key points.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there one more comment online? I see a phone number, but not a name. The 1360 number. Would that individual like to speak? Okay. Hearing no requests. All right, we will go ahead and close that portion of the hearing, and now the applicant has 10 minutes to respond. One second. I want to make sure that she gets that timer updated to 10 minutes for the applicant to respond. Can we go back? Somebody inform her to please update that to 10 minutes. Oh, she's doing it now. I think she's trying to juggle multiple things. Can you reset that? So there you go. Okay, you are on.
Okay, Garrett West back for the applicant. I'm going to try and not take 10 minutes of your time. Thanks again for spending the time to hold a public hearing on this. I am going to have Sherry come up and add a few more comments. One of the things I wanted to address was from, I think, the last speaker from Crag Law, in which Ms. Dunn indicated that the state definitions for water-dependent and water-related uses do not encompass the proposal on this application. These definitions are in Curry County's code. Curry County has reasonable definitions there. The Board of Commissioners is the interpreter of the code, and so long as the board is making a reasonable interpretation of whatever the code says, that's what the law is. So I wanted to highlight that specifically. Please do make a reasonable interpretation, whatever it is, but that is important to just put in the record that I do not believe the state definitions, wherever they might be in the state law, directly apply to the code. Concerning potential archaeological discoveries on the site, my understanding is there's many feet of fill on this site. I don't believe that there would be any inadvertent archaeological discoveries with any further development of the site. But if a condition of approval needs to be that there should be an inadvertent discovery plan proposed, we can certainly do that. With the record being left open or continuance, whichever the board decides. If the record is kept open, I would ask that I get additional time after the record, after facts are allowed in the record, so I can make my final legal arguments. I believe that's allowed under state law. If there's a continuance, I would ask that you decide what the date is here today, so we can all calendar it. I know that can be a bit difficult. One of the other issues that I wanted to briefly address was the cultural center thing that's coming up in comments. Many people have advocated for the establishment of a cultural center in some form on this site. As far as I'm aware, no formal offer has been made to purchase the property from my clients, and I'm not aware of any specific plans to develop something like that. I would say that that might, tail into a broader community conversation to be had in the future, as many of the comments kind of alluded to. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'm going to have Sherry come up and say her final piece. Thank you.
Hello again, Sherry McGrath. I really just wanted to touch on a few of the infrastructure questions that came up. So the existing septic system on the site will be decommissioned. It's not in use now anyway, but it will be decommissioned. And these came about in several of the comments about sewer and water capacity as well. Wedderburn Sanitary District has already confirmed that sewer capacity is available, and Dyer Partnership will end up doing an in-depth study to figure out if we need to do improvements to the district in order to support the use. The sanitary isn't an issue, and the Water District has also confirmed that that's not an issue, though when we get to that point of final permits, if infrastructure improvements are needed to ensure that everyone has water pressure and needs are met, that's a future step. Right now, we're just talking about land use approval and not so much about the approval of construction documents and how the districts handle, their sanitary needs. And another one was about drainage and erosion control. What many may not realize is that Wedderburn, Doyle, and part of Highway 101 actually flow underneath of this property, pipe under this property, and straight out to the river. Our plan proposes drainage swales that will capture all of the road runoff and handle our on-site runoff, which will actually clean the water before it goes out into the river. So we're improving the drainage system that already exists. And as Garrett mentioned, the site has been filled. And there's a picture across the hall, actually, that I encourage everyone to look at, that this site was water. So yes, it is a cultural site, perhaps, but it is covered with several feet of fill. And we're not digging into the fill. We're simply we're improving the drainage that the city or the county has on the site right now. So that will be redirected and taken care of with drainage swales. As far as the cultural impacts and an IDP, it's common practice to have an IDP, inadvertent discovery plan, on site during all construction. A cultural resources study, in this case, could become a condition of approval, though, again, there will be no ground disturbance. What is there will be graded, and a lift of rock will be brought on top of it. So we do not think that that's an important part of this project. However, I agree that Curry County, typically the tribes are notified during an application and are allowed to give comments. And that's helpful to the applicant too, because then we hear from them what they want from us at the beginning and not in a public hearing or an appeal. So I do encourage some kind of a system to be put in place where they are notified and the applicant is notified as well. And that's how we all work together to make sure that development is responsible, at the very least. I don't want to take too much more time. I know there were a lot of comments that we could address, but I think we've hit on the most of them. And again, the temporary use of the RV parking spaces is considered in Chapter 7.040. We ask that staff review that and the Board of Commissioners think about that as you consider approval of the application. Thank you.
And lastly, to wrap up, I know there were some comments and discussions related to how Curry County is dealing with development and development services. I've been doing a lot of applications in Curry County since I started practicing law in 2017. You guys are really doing well. You're improving a lot. There's a lot more to be done, as is the case in many other counties, but we're really on the upswing. Continue making sure that there's good communication with everyone who should be communicated with, including tribal partners. But otherwise, it's kind of I think things are looking in a good direction. If you do have any questions, Sherry and I are happy to answer them, but otherwise, we have 3 minutes left and we'll yield our time. So thank you.
Thank you. I did see Tabitha's hand raised, and I will address her question. The length of time was identified by the number of applicants, and it was at the discretion of the chair to provide 3 to 5 minutes, not shall be 5. So sorry if there was any misunderstanding there. But
can I just clarify one thing that was mentioned by the applicants, Blair? We have a signed letter from the landowner of willingness to enter.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but this isn't your time to speak. The time to speak has already happened. So thank you.
Okay, he just asked for clarifying questions, and I just want to say for the record that we have a letter signed from the landowners in July to entertain the proposal. So Thank you, sorry.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I may, on the issue of continuance versus written record remaining open, it would be staff's recommendation to actually just continue the hearing to a date and time specific rather than keep the written record open. That gives the opportunity for the public to come back and respond in the same type forum based upon information that's been provided today. We would request from a staffing standpoint to make sure that we get all of the information and provide an updated record to the public, that we would, if the board chose to continue the hearing, request to have that hearing on October 15th. That gives us 3 weeks to provide, for the public to provide additional information and to prepare for a meeting. The only thing that we need to do is we do need to request an extension of the 150-day timeline of the applicant, if they're willing to do so, as today is the 150, well, it's the final day of the extension that they've provided us already for this application. So if the applicant is willing to extend the 150-day period to a date past October 15th, that would be my recommendation.
We absolutely can. My only comment is
Can you come to the microphone? Yeah, I apologize.
we certainly can grant that extension. My only comment is October 15th. I'm not available.
I'm not
as I go
either.
to my firm, so.
Okay. And it can be whatever date is, it's at least that date. Let's
Okay.
just put it that way. And I don't want to, I want to be respectful of the applicant's time for extension of the 150-day time period as well.
Okay. While you're there, are you available on the 16th?
I'm not available that week.
Okay. Okay, how about the 22nd?
Of October?
Yes.
I have that as a Saturday. Oh, never mind, I'm sorry, that's a Wednesday. Yes, I am available.
Are you available?
I will make myself available.
Okay. Are you available? You are not. When are you available?
21st.
Tuesday?
Mm-hmm.
That's fine with me.
It's good with me.
Okay.
I can do it. I'll probably be here remotely.
How about the 20th?
We can chat about how I'm here, but I'm available when you need me to be here.
Okay. All right.
So we
21st. We have a BOC meeting that day, so
I'll be, in the same
room
position I'm in now.
Sure. Sure. Okay. Then the 21st?
That's great.
11 a.m.
11 a.m. So we will continue this hearing to October 21st and resume at 11 a.m. So I will not close this hearing. We will keep it open for comment.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, is that it for this?
That's it for this hearing.
Okay. Obviously we had expected to have some time to deliberate, but I think continuing this hearing is probably prudent for all parties. And I appreciate everybody who came out to speak today. It's obviously very informative that we get everybody's perspectives, and they're all unique and they're all valuable, and we want to make sure that they're all heard. So thank you all, and we will continue this on the 21st. Safe travels.
Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners.